I'm
Um,
recording this because this is going to be a good outtake.
all right, Shar. So now I want to know about you. Tell me about your laws of attraction.
That's a really interesting question, Sunny. I think I've spent most of my life figuring out what the laws of attraction means when it comes to the romantic lens, and more recently have discovered that the laws of attraction starts with me. I think that's what makes me single and thriving. So um, I learned about the laws of attraction in my 20s. I lived in New York, uh, partied, went to great restaurants, clubs, did like the intramural sports thing when it comes to meeting people, and have kind of, experienced casual love, which I'm not really great at. I think it's the jackfruit part of me. And I've, tried to experience the more long-term kind of love. But I'm a big commitment phobe, which makes uh, partnership in my 20s really hard because I was afraid of losing myself without really knowing who I was. I knew what my job was. I knew who my friends were. I knew the apartment that I lived in, but I didn't really know who I was at my core because I was still really scared of sharing it out loud. So my laws of attraction were more focused on the superficial things and the deep things.
So I have a question. You mentioned that you're a commitment phobe, and I mean, I used to be a commitment phobe too, right? And then you also mentioned that you were familiar with everything else, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Someone had told me one day that starting a relationship is like breastfeeding, right? Like you're eating solid food. You're eating solid food when it comes to your friendships, your jobs, your life. But each relationship is like you have to breastfeed while everything else is solid food. And
Yeah.
that's why people get scared. But like for you, like are you still a commitment phobe or I mean, where do you stand right now?
I'm not. I'm not a commitment phobe. And I think because I've gotten to a place where I know myself. And it's not the person that's making me, more or less a commitment phobe. It's more of me and what I want, right? And so going back to the point of my 20s, I thought I knew who I was. And, for me at that time, it meant where I lived, who my friends are, what my job was. And when I started to realize, now in my early 30s, is my law of attraction is me living a life full of adventure, life full of absurdity, and life of continuous learning and impact, right? And those might be like super vague terms, but I know it to my core based on my story of how I got to those terms. And I think that makes me have more of that commitment because I realized whoever I am going to have this partnership is also going to have those core values as well because now I'm attracted to my own values. And so I did like a, spiritual ayahuasca journey in Costa Rica in January. And one of the shamans at the very last day said that if you're single, this is the time in which you're going to meet people who are more closer to your core because you've opened up your mind, your body, and your spirit to who you actually are. And now that you're not confined by a box of what you want or what you need from a partner, you have an abundance of what that could be in terms of possibility. And so I feel like when I'm going to meet new people in my life, they're going to be much closer to who I am and the life that I want to live together as a partnership rather than, living based on what society wants at this specific age, having kids at this specific age. Because what I realized going from my 20s and my 30s was I really wanted to leave that hamster wheel where I'm not defined by, what I do or, you know, how people see me, but instead I'm defined by the life I want to live for the rest of my life.
Right. And you know, it's a very good point you bring out about you like people, a lot of people say I'm a commitment phobe. I'm a commitment phobe, right? But you, I think, kind of nailed it in my perspective, because I feel like people are commitment phobes not because of other people, but because of their non-existing their inability to identify who they are or really kind of figure out who they are. Because that's how I was too, you know, like, but you, as you became more open, you became more confident, and you just learned to like know yourself more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it like it opens up like so many doors, and that's great to hear. But after knowing all this, what is it like being single right now in the US?
I mean, it's hard. You know, I, again, you know, was living in New York City where a lot of the people are single. It's, you know,
Mhm.
Peter Pan type of, you know, city. There are people who have relationships, and they've had friends who've had, you know, really great relationships there. But my story was more in regards to being a single person, right? And so it was so easy to be single because you always had a good majority of your friend group being single. And again, I was in my 20s. But as I'm getting older, in my 30s, it's kind of hard. Being in San Francisco or the Bay Area, the lifestyle is a little bit different. It's much easier because of the cost of living and because of the events to be a couple than to be single. So I do have more friends that are in relationships than are single now. So I've, you know, have gone on vacations on my own. I've spent a lot of my time alone, but that also gives me time to explore myself as a, you know, person who is single, right? Like I could have really great relationships, really great friends, but now I'm exploring it kind of based on what I want, versus if someone else wants to join me for something, right? And so I think the reason why I'm single and thriving is I'm really just enjoying this time getting to know myself better. Like
Mhm.
my greatest love of my life has to start with me, and then
Right.
that'll help me understand like how to have, you know, a lot of great love in my life. And that's just not my romantic relationship. Like you said this in our part one, which was like what you measure is not your partner's friends, but how they treat their friends, right? And a lot of my friends say that I'm devoted and I'm loyal because
Mhm.
we've invested so much time in our relationship. But
Mhm.
now that I'm investing time in myself, my friends are also telling me that I am open and I'm honest and I'm self aware because it's an extension of who I am now coming back into this relationship as a person with self love. So it's
Mm.
not just the extension of how I treat someone, but how I help that person treat themselves or have a different perspective about themselves through what I'm bringing into the table when it comes to that relationship.
Right. That's amazing. I feel like your journey is like, I guess back in the days, if we were to seek relationships based on loneliness, right? For you, I feel like now it's excitement of like you're so much better, like you connect with yourself better, and now you're excited to meet people or a partner who will join you in this exciting journey.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel alone, but I don't feel lonely as much.
Mhm. Right, right.
You know, I think this journey has given me a perspective of what it means to be connect and intimate. You know, I'm excited to see who comes to my life and for me to experience that next step as a partner. But I'm not willing to give up who I am as a friend, a daughter, and an aunt in that process.
Right. And you wouldn't need to, you know, you shouldn't have to. If anything, I feel like your ideal partner be would love how much you care for others, you know? That's like a beautiful trait of yours, you know?
Yeah, and I would want my partner, like, I want it to be super proud and happy to see how that partner treats their people in their life.
Right. That's
Whether
so
I want them to have their own best friend aside from me, but I also
important.
want to be their best friend too, right?
And it works like that. You don't, I feel like it's very old school to be like just one, because we no longer live in a generation where you're born in the same city and you die in the same city.
Totally. And there's a 60% divorce rate in the United States. So if I devote all my time to that one person and saying that only that one person is my best friend, what if we get a divorce, right?
I know,
Like,
right? You are alone, buddy. You are legit alone.
oh, right? Like, I don't want to, that's why I'm not willing to like dilute my relationships. Like, even if I see my friends, evolve and wanting to, might have their own different values, it doesn't mean that I'm going to give them less love. It just means that I'm going to
Right,
continue my love. And as they figure themselves out in this process, I'm confident in our relationship that there's going to be a point where they're going to love me back in the same way
right,
I've been loving them. Because that's what
right,
unconditional love is. It's not a year thing. It's a lifetime of love.
right. And like you said, I think this concept of unconditional love is only applicable once we begin that with ourselves, right? Like, Oscar Wilde, this is kind of cheesy, but there's a quote, something along the lines of a lifelong greatest romance begins with yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I totally believe in that. That was
yeah.
so amazing. Thank you for sharing all this.
Law of attraction starts with you.
Hmm.
So thank you for joining us in this two-part episode of Laws of Attraction. Before we end this two-part, Sunny, do you want to share our jackfruit quote of the day?
Yes. So here's jackfruit quote of the day. Some people are like jackfruit, hard and rude on the outside, but soft and sweet in inside. Difficult to open the outer layer to find the sweet quality of core.
Thanks, Sunny. And again, subscribe, comment below your laws of attraction and whether you're hard, soft, juicy, raw to the core. And we'll see you next time. Thank you for joining us in Jackfruit Delight. See you later.
Thank you. See you guys. Bye
Bye.
bye.